step in real time of how you create this for yourself at home. I'm going to explain every technique, every color mix, everything that's going on. To help me do that is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's going to make sure that you have a really easy time following along the lessons by using one of our robotic cameras to zoom into the palette, to zoom into the brush stroke, to get all in on the canvas here so that you guys are really seeing what I'm doing. Because I found with beginners, if you guys can see it and understand what I'm doing, you can pretty much duplicate it. And that's made us really successful. The other thing that we do is we really mark out our steps. So you'll see it go up step 1, step 2, step 3 as we go. And then after the show, we timestamp those. If you're not familiar with this feature on YouTube, when a video has been timestamped like that, you can scroll over the play bar and it will tell you what segment of the video you're in. Also, you can click those hyperlink stamps and it will take you to that part of the video. Why is this important? Because we make mini books which release a week to 2 weeks after the video comes out, and you can use those to pair up with a video, know where your steps are, know what you're doing, and not have to just sort of wander through and go, wait, when did she say that? Or when was that technique? I can't remember. We mark it for you so you don't have to remember, because I want you guys to put all your energy into painting. How are you doing today, babe?
Pretty good.
It's a nice Saturday.
It is.
I feel like a nice Saturday. Let's all take a deep breath. Wow. It is a good day. Every day is a good day if you paint. Right? Every day is a good day. So we're going to take it in, let go whatever we're carrying before we came into our studios. Breathe in our creativity. Release whatever we were bringing in with us before we sat down to be creative. I know you guys are going to love this lesson. So I've got a 16 by 20 surface here. I like to put wishes or intentions in my surfaces just to sort of set my mindset when I'm going forward. I have a wish. It's a slightly self-serving wish on this one, that Acrylic April this year is a huge success and gets very well attended and everybody's super excited about it. That vaccines or treatments or whatever you are needing, I don't know what that is, whatever you need in relationship to COVID, that you and your family and community get that. And hope and relief and safety for all families everywhere. So those are my wishes on this particular surface. You can put anything that you want on yours or not at all. That is entirely up to you. Across here, you'll see a blue line I've done with a watercolor pencil. I used a tool called a T-square, and that's a ruler that lets me make straight lines, and I measured down to the 10-inch mark, which is between 25 and 26 centimeters, right there. And I use it to draw a nice straight line, and the reason that you want to do that, and we'll go over this again with my big metal one, is so that your horizon line is level, because one of the big things, especially on this type of mirrored sky on water technique, is to have a really locked in horizon line. Number one thing I see throw beginners off on really good landscape paintings or oceanscape paintings is their horizon lines end in an angle. So the number one thing you can do to improve your painting today is level out the horizon line. It's a simple thing, but it's a helpful thing. Let's go over the colors for today's painting. I feel like we're going to probably get into, because this is such a colorful painting, all the colors in our palette. I'm using these same colors all year, including Acrylic April, for all of our primary lessons. I've got Cad Red Medium, Cad Yellow Medium. I have Naples Yellow Light. This is sometimes also called Tighten It Yellow. So here's two examples of this color. If you're not familiar with it and you're a beginner, I really would love to invite you to go read the blog about Naples Yellow, because it explains everything. It shows you via picture what companies have it. And the price of this paint ranges from $3 and up. So there is an economy range for everybody, and there's a way to make it with craft paint. All right, Phthalo Blue, Phthalo Green, Burnt Sienna, Mars Black, and I also like to put out a little ultramarine blue, Dioxazine Purple, and Quinacridone Magenta with a little titanium white in the center. Now, the ultramarine blue and the phthalo blue, why do I have two blues out? It's because this does that more aqua in the sky, but this makes a softer purple, and sometimes I don't get that purple with my diox, so I like to just have it out. It also makes a nice teal when mixed with phthalo green. You guys ready?
Before we get too far,
we got to do step one.
Two questions. Yeah, I was going to ask, can I step ya?
Step one. Now that you know where we're at.
Okay, we're at step one.
Dreamy?
Isn't that what you called it?
Yeah, I think probably I did. I probably did call it Dreamy. I don't know. I name my things random things all the time. And so
I just went by the title, Sherpa.
it's very experiential. I see Monaster Naffy here and Barbara Rhea.
One more
Good
thing.
to see everybody.
One more thing before you go. Over here on the palette, we have brush obfuscation in the upper corner. Can you brush aside your brushes there? Because it's blocking the blue and the brown. No,
I don't know what that means.
The brushes, the tippy brushes.
Oh!
There they are.
Okay, I just did not understand. You know what? I could just I can push this
right
back
there.
a little bit and pull this forward a little bit.
Okay, that's perfect. I got it.
Is that good?
That's good.
All right, because we want to see the palette.
We can see
so
it.
you can see how the color mixes are done.
All right.
Once you get the gist of it, it's very simple. Now, we've rated this a 2 hoot. It really depends on where you're at. If clouds are your anemone, it might feel like a 3 hoot. If clouds are like something you're getting more confident, it may move towards a 1 hoot. So I just divided the difference and said 2, because it's actually a simpler technique than you might think. Let's begin with step 1 in putting in our background sky. I'm going to take a fairly big brush. This is a 1.5 inch brush. I'm picking a brush this size so that I can paint this size surface fairly easily. Also, I want to make some, John loves this, some fisheye in the clouds. So I'm going to set that up even with the sky. Let's get this wet a little bit. And I'm going to start by loading up on both sides of my brush some white pretty heavily. See that?
Ooh, yeah.
And we're going to come here and come along the horizon line and start to paint the bottom of this right here above this. This is at 10 inches, straight line across, 10 inches from the top, between 25 and 26 centimeters. You can do this. All right. When I have that in before it dries, I'm going to get maybe a little bit of my Naples yellow and just the smallest amount of my phthalo blue. Just want to get kind of like this really interesting aqua that is at the base. And we're going to just brush back and forth right into the white. And you can see the white paint being there first helps us get a very soft blended background, almost like we're painting in oils. Isn't that cool?
It is.
Now, before this is dry, I'm definitely going to want to add a little more blue into my paint mix. And you can see start to add that going up. Now I have this nice light area and I'm coming up into a darker blue. If my brush gets too dry, I'm going to add just a smidge. Notice that I barely touched the filaments into the water. That's because hog bristles will tend to hold more water than synthetic brushes. So if you get a hog bristle brush, you may want to use less water because they're hairs. Well, they're bristles, but they're like hairs. Now I might get a little more water on my brush here. Again, it's just a touch, but you can see that it improves the flow of paint off of my brush. And where this paint and this paint is both wet, I can blend them in together. Now up here, I'm just going to want to get there. Let's get a little more water on here, but not too much. You can see even just barely touching, that's quite a lot. Come across here. There's a little bit of a smile, as you can see, in my stroke. And where I want to blend two areas, I just lightly dust and brush. There we go. Now it's a good idea to rinse your brush out entirely. And then you're going to want to wring out the extra water in a towel. Right? So there's not a lot of excess water, and I can take these slightly damp filaments, and while my paint is still just a little bit wet, I can do another soft blend. So that makes a big difference in that initial blend. That's getting me a good start into what I want on my sky.
That turned out fantastic.
It does, doesn't it? It's really rather lovely. Now I'm going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to flip the surface over.
Oh no.
Right?
What does that mean?
Well, that means that I'm trying to give myself a better angle for what I'm doing. And so by flipping it over, I can brush easy the water line.
But that's not so scary.
Not scary at all. Let's get a little bit of our yellow again in here. Our Naples yellow. Right? Just a smidge of the blue. And if you'll remember, we're going to go kind of quite white. There we go.
All right.
Let's get a little more white in there.
Okay. So I'm going to try a name.
Yet.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So we're just going back and forth. All right. Let's get back into this. Now, an interesting thing I'm going to do a little different as I come through here. And we just want to make sure that our water is started. A little darker at the edges here. But you're going to be surprised by what I'm about to do. I just got to get the paint on. Now, it's wet. All right? What's the trick? It's wet. I'm going to rinse it out. Wring it out. Even if you're doing a synthetic brush, you're going to want to wring out. Uh-oh. I just made drops.
Is that okay?
It is something to be aware of, and it can underbind on your surface. This is how you fix it. You just brush back over. All right.
Preferably while it's wet.
Preferably while it's wet. Let's get some white in here.
And that's what you were sprinting for.
That's what I was sprinting for, but I got a little delayed.
Looks like it's still doing it.
Bye. Yeah. I'm fanning this out a little bit. If I need to, I'll get some more of my white on here. You can see my water is getting quite dirty. This brush carries a lot of pigment with it. You can find these brushes in different sections of the art store. A lot of brands carry this style of brush. So, you know, don't feel like you can't find it. It'll work as well synthetic as it will in hog. And you can see that I'm just coming here and kind of making sure that we're fanning out. So, like, if you're looking at difficulty level, right? Trying to understand how difficult will this be for me to do? I'm going to squeeze my brush out away from the canvas. I like to show you, so I'll show you over here. I'm squeezing it out. But you probably don't want to squeeze it close to the canvas, as it can like cause little moments to drop onto your surface and interfere with your hard work. We have so many clouds and skies, and this particular piece, I'm not as concerned, but already you can see that we're starting to get the radial two-point perspective of the sky that's going to be coming here and the start of the upper sky here. All right, so I can take questions and John can photograph this step.
So we're moving on to step 2.
2.
So there were some folks saying this reminded them of some of their favorite paintings, especially the ship in a jar.
Yes, this has a bit in common with the ship in the jar. And if you've done my Pier previously, that was from years ago, this will match really well with that. I think I've actually got a few that go, but I went through recently because I just kept thinking, have I painted this sunset before? A couple things I've learned. I'm never going to paint all the sunsets. There are just too many kinds of sunsets. And I haven't painted this sunset before. So it's interesting. Sometimes techniques or color palettes will feel somewhat similar and you feel like, oh, I've been here before. And that's maybe a little bit true and that you might have been here before. But chances are, if you're painting a different sky, you're really into a different painting. Every sky, every oceanscape, every seascape asks a little something different of us. And we'll start to recognize techniques or cloud formations or like, oh, sunsets tend to go from this range of colors to this range of colors. Dawns tend to be this. But what you'll find is they really are little snowflakes. They are their own special expression of what they have going on. Look at that. So we just have the groundwork, right? The beginning. Now I'm going to start into my sky, and I'm going to switch to a big chunky round brush. I like to use bigger brushes on a bigger canvas because I don't want to have to work so incredibly hard. I'm also going to want to get up into here and kind of fix some of this upward sky up here. So let's move into, this is also a big brush, but it's not going to be as scratchy or bristly. And I'll still use my blue water, though. I'll probably be switching to clean water. You guys ready? You're going to do this? Now, if you're wondering what this was a 1.5 inch cutter from the previous one. We're now moving on to a 1 inch mop. This particular one is called Ultimate Varnish, which I think throws people off, but it really is a 1 inch mop. It's a fantastic cloud and sky brush, like fantastic. I'm going to show you my 2 favorite cloud and sky brushes here, as well as what I think are the staples. Now up top, I'm going to get a little bit of my phthalo blue, and I'm going to work into maybe a little of my ultramarine blue. I know, right, that I'm going to be running clouds up into this, and it needs to be a little darker, a little cooler up here, so I can start to flick back and forth. This is light flick. Some of what makes this work is this brush is pretty soft, a pretty soft brush, so it lends itself to this moment. There's a little ultramarine and a little phthalo here. That halftone really helps these things sort of combine into each other. And I just want to make sure that I've got a nice smooth upper area to put my fluffy soft clouds on when I get here. Right? I know I've got a lot of pink and stuff here that I can worry about. And I'm going to dry this a bit in a second so that I don't have any binding issues. Let's blend this out. What I did here is I rinsed this brush out, and now I'm taking the damp bristles and blending these. You may wonder, well, why don't you use... I have them. I have so many goats. Why don't you use a goat? 2 reasons. It carries even more water than this. It makes the paint foam, so you're fighting the foam, and often it has too water. It is a beautiful blender, but they do tend to be breaky and sheddy, even in the good lines. So that's why sometimes I tend to avoid a goat and like a synthetic. That's all. And also I like goats, so, you know, I want to take their fur. Let's dry this.
All right.
Right? So we have that nice beginning of that. I'm going to dry this real fast.
Okay.
I'm not, because not.
Oh, push the button.
Got to push the button.
All right. So thank you guys for joining us today. It's really nice to have such a wonderful crowd of folks out here chatting. Cinnamon's doing some wet on wet work, so that requires her to work kind of fast, and she can't quite take as many questions as we normally would during that phase, so I'm sure she'll be answering more questions as we move on. Don't forget to thoroughly dry between your steps like this. The big reason is that you don't want it to underbind, meaning you don't want to pull up some of those layers underneath. You don't want it to muddy the colors or mix in subsequent layers. So it's just good to make sure you thoroughly dry those layers. Don't use heat because it can your paint can be heat sensitive. But now, okay.
Okay.
We're back.
We're back. We're back from outer space. I want to show you guys something. Probably we could totally like not point this out to you and go on for the purposes of time, but I know there are plenty of cloud painters out there that show you how awesome they are at painting clouds, and then they don't really help you paint clouds. I want to help you paint clouds. So sometimes I'm going to show you where something has gone wrong and how I fix it, just in case at home you had this problem too. Notice the uneven tone here. Can we do we really see that? Can we see that little patchiness? Well, now for me, I know I can paint over this and it'll be fine. But if you at home would be very panicked, if I were to see this in a canvas and I just dried it, I would want to come through again. See what I'm doing? With just a little more paint and come back over and blend that in. See how we're doing? It just, if you get that, the trick is don't try to fix it wet. fix it dry.
Layers.
Sometimes in acrylic painting, you want to fix an issue when it's wet, and sometimes you want to fix it when it's dry. The thing about being as a beginner is you might not know what time it is. Is it dry time or is it wet time? You don't know yet. That's what teachers are for. To say, oh, well, if you have this kind of uneven patchiness and you're trying to fix it, you want to fix this dry. If I were to spill some black paint on it, I want to fix it before that black paint dries. Mm-hmm. Right? I want to move that while it's still wet. And it's really about knowing this, right? I still haven't lost my middle range. You can even come into your phthalo blue and titanium white in your middle range and look. Honestly, with skies, the layers are everything. I have done some that we've given as patron rewards, and people are like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, I got to really show this on the channel. So that's what we're doing. See the fluff? What is this brush? This one happens to be an ultimate varnish. Can't get this one. I found this one at Joann's. This is a Royal and Lang nickel 1 inch. And I found this at Michael's. This is a Princeton 1 inch. These are all mops. The other thing you're going to definitely want if you're doing clouds, you've got to have these. You want to do this and this. Love those two. For fluffiness. All right, rinsing out. You guys doing okay?
No, very, very good.
Now, let's put a little glow down here. All right, we want a little glow. Let's pull out our Naples yellow light. If you don't have that, you can just use your CAD yellow or read that blog. Mm-hmm. Read the blog. I'm going to get a little water. Because I'm using this mop, I don't want that much water. Right? I'm in a mop. Water is not necessarily what I need. And now, see how I'm adding that little glow right here?
Oh, yeah.
Little yellow glow. Bring it on up. Bring it on up. Little glow. I'm going to start to think about some of the, notice that I'm starting to mimic some of the radialness.
I do.
See those curves of those strokes? Look at that go. I'm going to dust a little more of the yellow here. It's going to be really hard for me to break this up into steps because usually when I do sunsets, I like power through.
You're just like, there are no steps. There's just sunset.
There are no steps. Sometimes it feels like that. I'm taking a little of my phthalo blue into this, and I'm getting a little of that kind of aqua turquoise color. What am I also paying attention to? The horizon line.
Oh.
Oceanscape, seascape, doesn't really matter.
I was going to guess.
To pay close attention to the horizon line.
And how come?
Because the horizon line, if the horizon line doesn't look level, if it gets off center, what's the number one thing we can do as a beginner?
Looks tilty. Prevent
it from being tilty, to keep it straight.
So your water doesn't flow off the edge of the canvas?
And let's just call it level. Let's keep it level.
Keep it level.
Because you could have a straight line and not have it be level. So keep it level. Be level-headed about it. Now, this is a great time to pull a little drama in with my CAD. I'm going to take my cadmium yellow and my titanium white. And over here, a little off-center.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to add a bit of this over here to the side. Notice that my brush strokes are a little curved. They're light. They're dancey. Just get dancey. Pink told you. All right. And just brush that through and kind of see how that is really, really coming along. I feel like this area over here to my horizon doesn't have enough paint to the horizon line. I know I've got hills and things that are going to be coming in, but I am going to bring just this layer of paint just to make sure that even though I've got the hills layering in, it's flush to the water. Because were there no landmass, the water would be flush to the sky. All right, let's photograph that there because that was a lot to take in, wasn't it? That's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna sip this. Call this step 3, dreamy. Because we're gonna get there. It's gonna be dreamy. This is gonna be your favorite sky you've ever done. You're gonna be like, all other skies before this have let me down and disappointed me deeply. So how are you guys doing? Does Cinnamon ever used a Princeton dagger brush? Annette M. Voss, have I ever used a Princeton dagger? I have not used the Princeton dagger. I have used daggers from the Ruby Satin line and from the Bristolin line, but I haven't used Princeton's dagger. I can't say if that particular brush is great, but I can say Princeton is a good brush company, so I'd be surprised if it wasn't a very good brush. You can't always be 1,000% sure, but I would be surprised if it wasn't. Daggers are very nice for creating lines and tapered work. They're a lovely tool to have, and if you already have all the other brushes and you're looking for another brush to have, that's a great brush to go for, I feel.
I was so impressed when I heard there was a dagger and a sword brush. Sword brush are used for pinstriping.
That's true. I kind of want to make sure I don't get so far into the clouds that I lose what's going on down here. So I'm going to take a little detour.
Oh.
Right?
Step
Interestingly enough, I'm going to get, oh, what is this? This looks good. This is an Isaby by Isacryl, but what this really is a flat. You could use a bright. I want something that's got a very nice square area. And I'm going to, I want more pure white. I'm going to get white loaded onto it. It can have a little yellow in it, but it really needs to be white. I'm going to come along here. And I'm going to brush this line, there's a little yellow there, of white across the water. If you observe, there is this very bright space before we get into the deep water. So again, you're just talking a flat. This particular size is a 6. It's just about, there's that sort of boundary. And, you know, I'm interested to know, do you guys notice or see the boundary along the horizon?
Oh, yeah.
So you see me kind of moving my body to keep that straight. Now, the other thing that I'm going to want to do, right? If my clouds are going to come like this here, they need to go like this here. It's a mirror reflection. So when you notice a pattern or a shape in the cloud, remember to pull it apart like that. So I'm going to come in and start to pull it apart. I may switch back into my little mop brush. I think I got just, so I think the thing is like every brush has a cloud in it.
I remember.
It really does. Every brush has a cloud, and so sometimes it's easy to get like, oh, yeah, no, I've got this. Notice that I am, however, really working that space out and starting to speak to that foundation, right? I also really want to get into my white and blue. You know, I'm going to make sure that there's some great kind of aqua to build from, even though I know I've got oranges and all this stuff happening here. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of my ultramarine kind of coming in. See how we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
You can do this. Now, the tools help. But you can still do it if you don't have my exact tool. So if you're a painter who's like, I use totally different brushes, yeah, it's cool. Don't be stressed on that. You can use a different set of brushes. I'm not stressed to you, so don't be worried. I might come here and I might wipe my brush out and just kind of feather blend just a little bit. So it's a nice softer transition to what is going on. A little more white. Just doing that work, right? Do the work.
That's the ultimate varnish brush.
This is my favorite of them. It's the ultimate varnish brush. But again, there are other mops. This is just my favorite mop. Doesn't have to be yours. And you know I'm not using any hogs, so it's not that it's not a good brush. Hogs are great. And goat's a great brush. Goat's just really hard for beginners.
Ah.
I'm going to bring a little bit of this sense over here too. A little bit. There we go. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
Sometimes the foundation sets the way, you know? Sometimes the foundation sets the way. Let's take a look at that and step back and evaluate a couple of things. Are our lines remaining straight? You know, do our lines remain straight? Over here, we can get into some more of the yellow over here on this side. So come in now that you have it upside up. So we've got the light over here. You want to make sure your lines remain straight though. Way that you can check T-square. Right? You can take a T-square.
Double check.
Doesn't hurt to double check it. This one doesn't have measurements, which is why you don't see it a lot. And also I haven't checked its square lately in relationship to the surfaces. I may have to use my original. I haven't checked that one in forever. Enough. I don't think it is, babe.
Yeah, really?
No.
It may have been bonked.
It may be off square a little bit. So sometimes it's nice to just come along and be like,
just double check the level.
Make sure this is butted in level and then just double check the level. You're not going to be sorry that you did. And these little things make a big, big difference.
Oh, yeah.
Just keeping those things level. And we'll do that a couple of times. And that's something important to kind of see and notice is that not all T-squares square up as they should. I would love to heat my coffee and freshen up some water.
Are we on a step?
We're on a step.
I think this would be step 4.
Step. I don't know why I've suddenly become somebody who's like, painting here at the mattress store. So in step 4, we're going to put in some more of our clouds. We're probably going to keep working in our mops. We might pull in a chunky round, and we might pull in our Princeton round blender. What we're really going to do is just make sure that we create the expression and gesture of the clouds. Something I could suggest to you as a beginner is try to get out of your own head about the clouds and not be like, this is a cloud and this isn't a cloud, and just get into the movement and form and value of the subject and worry less about what the subject is. Like a lot of times topically, we can get wrapped up into an idea. This is a water drop. This is snow. This is a tree. This is a cloud. But in painting, everything is the same. It is light, shadow, form, texture, line, hue. That's it. That's all that's going on there. Always the same. So painting flowing clear water is the same as painting a solid granite mountain. They are not functionally different. We just express them with different lines and hues and form and value. That's all it is. Because it's always, if you think about it, not to get into your head while he does my canvas, not to get into your head, but it's a flat surface. It's always a flat surface. So, and that's the other reason that I wanted to like kind of simplify the palette and everything is so that you guys can kind of come into this idea, can you get me two fresh water, like two fresh waters? No, not. This one's good. There we go. I have so many waters, it's impossible to know how it'd even help me. So does that kind of help you understand that process of clouds? It's like, it doesn't really matter what I'm painting. It's always the same. And hey, we always get wrapped up in a topic because architectural elements or engineering elements can be very line specific. I sometimes found frustration with cars, right? I know cars intrinsically are the same as everything else, but I know that their line requirements are so specific that it can be very frustrating to try to express them accurately without it looking a little artsy. Thanks to you guys, right? I have painted a lot more cars and got more confident with that, but they always were the same, right? A street scene is the same as a car, is the same as a boat, is the same as an engine, is the same as a plane. Anytime that you're doing anything that's very line specific or perspective specific, it will be very similar in its nature. I love it. But in all fairness, horses tend to be very line specific, right? I mean, if the lines are in a strange place, sometimes it doesn't feel that horsey. Or, you change just the line of a horse's nose, you have a whole different breed of horse. All right, fresh water. Good thing to know. I'm going to mist my palette, make sure we stay, even on the wet palette, on winter conditions, it's nice to keep it kind of ready to go. Let's put in some of the more exciting bits, shall we? I feel like I'm doing the shall we play a game thing. So I've got my little mop brush here. All right, let's do that again. And let's begin with a story of yellow. I'm going to begin with just my CAD yellow. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to make a little brush mark. Brush up. See how these lines are open and very irregular. Make the irregular line. You want to be irregular? Don't be a regular Joe. Be an irregular Joe. And I am kind of putting some. And then where I want to come out, look, I just can wiggle. See how I wiggle? And it just creates a shape.
Yeah. I see the wiggle.
Wiggles a shape. Luckily, a lot of the shape over here will be covered by Pier. So we will actually do this part after we get this all up because we've got to put it in before we put in our Pier, and we're going to sketch in our Pier so we know what we don't got to paint. Now as I go, I can come and get a little bit into my CAD red medium. Touch, touch, flick, flick. Oh, what a relief it is. A little white into it. It's going to go what? Coral. Oh, look at that. It went coral. Now I might need to put out some more white. So I'll take the time to do that. You may find sometimes as you're painting that you need to put out more paint. And you may even need to put it in different places on your palette so it's away from colors that might gray it. A little white into the CAD yellow and CAD red. Right, getting there. Now as I go up, things might get a little bit stronger. And I'll just take my brush and play with these irregular shapes. Marks. Marks. Moving into my quinacridone. Now, quinacridone. It's quite dramatic, isn't it? Let's get a little white involved, shall we? Look at that beautiful color that has popped in. Kind of almost a pink.
That is wonderful.
And let's bring a little bit of that irregularness here. When I want to paint a different little element of my brush, I just kind of engage different bristles, right? I can come in the middle of that with a little of that pink. A little more of my water. And let's even consider some dots. Very gently, right? Not big. Let's come up here. And we're going to make some soft marks. These marks leave blue to show through. They are soft marks. And they're kind of out of focus, aren't they? We're capturing that energy of this burst. And if you need more water, get more water. Sometimes I like to put a little light pink down low. I'm going to get a little light pink down low. Look at that. A little yellow into that light pink. Oh, warm it up. Come over here and shall we dance a little over here? Let's dance. Little dots into the mix. Where's the mix? It's in that quinacridone and that white. And it came from the CAD. We're just moving through. And we're making these very soft. Look how gestural these little marks are. Has anyone ever told you how energetic painting can be for a sky? There was probably some instinct in you that ever once said, you know, I feel like I need to be painting this more energetically. And maybe all that happened is that you just kind of did the wrong motion to it, but you had the right instinct. Have you ever had the right instinct but the wrong motion? Just a little more dots there. It's just fun. Some energy.
Someone said more energy. I thought they were talking about coffee.
Sometimes we do. Sometimes I rinse out because I want to kind of get into a cleaner palette here. So let's get some of our white, some of our dots, maybe a little bit of our quin. Look at those strokes. They're
wow.
Right? That's what they are. If I get more into my CAD red, it curls up, doesn't it? We are not. Over here, a little more of the coral. And I say that's a lot to take in. This one might be a lot of steps, but that's because sometimes the layers of a sky, when you're new, are a lot to take in. But what I know is if you break them down into smaller, digestible bites, little mouche-bouche, you can find that little moment in the painting and not get overwhelmed in the layers or the journey of the painting. But just like, let's just let this be a little rest stop for you, okay? So woohoo! I'll let you get a bit of a... Already, it's a really lovely piece. And I have to tell you that when you get these techniques down, the joy that you will feel in painting sunsets will be a gift to to you for years to come. So if I can help you get here, I'm going to put everything in my soul to help you do it. I know you can do it. I know with the right resources you can do it. And I know right now some of you are feeling such anxiety because the perfectionist in you is wanting to control the sky, even though it is a free creature that knows no master. It's okay that that's your instinct, because that's the battle of the artist, right? So be easy with yourself. Now, we know we've got our wonderful pier in here, and we're going to paint around our pier a bit. Uh-oh, there we go. So let's talk about, where is the pier located? The pier is really 12 inches, right, from the top. So let's sort of come, it's almost centered, so we'll come from the top and make our 12-inch mark, right? There's a pier. That's where our pier is. So a lot of this, from this part of the horizon line to here, we'll see sky, but where the pier exists, we won't. Let's also make a mark. Let's say about 5 1/4. Right? And let's come over, and I'm going to need, where did my metal T-square go? Give me 2 seconds.
Disappearing Sherpa. She ventured off into the other room.
Well, I mean, that's why you put me on wireless, right? So I can find stuff in my studio. He looks at me like, you're not a good show host.
I didn't look at you. I looked at you like, I gave you wireless so that you stopped stepping on your wires.
No, it's so I could go where I needed to go. Right? It is bigger than you think. Come over here almost to the 15.5-inch mark, right? So 5 and 25 and about maybe 5.25 over here. And then let's say up here where we have it, that we're like almost 9 1/4, right? And almost 11 1/4. So that's a pretty big perspective jump in, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And if I sketch that in, and I can use this ruler to sketch that in pretty well. And I can come across here still pretty well for that, because, you know,
yeah,
this T-square is long enough for that, and make that little across. So now we have this wonderful, like, 2-point perspective pier. But what we don't know is that our hardest work in the water doesn't need to be inside that square. That is the important thing, right? Where do I not need to worry so much? I'm just making sure I have those lines. And maybe I'll give those to you in white paint so you guys at home can see them really well. You don't paint yours white. I'm painting mine white so you can see it. You don't paint yours white. Leave yours in chalk. I just want you to be able to see what we're not having to worry about painting. I'm going to do it in chalk. And there's another little thing we might not have to worry about painting, right? There is, right here, we have a peninsula that comes down, and I got to check this. I do believe at almost this mark right here. Right? So we have a little peninsula right there.
You keep fooling me.
And it comes over. Well, I'm looking at something behind me.
I know.
And comes over to about 4 1/4. So then there's also a little peninsula happening here. We still see some of a horizon line, but that just comes out this way. So that's another place that maybe we don't have so much to worry about when we're trying to do some things. So we can be like, oh, okay, so that's an area I don't have to worry so much about things that I'm painting. And here's another area. And, you know, and so let's flip this over then. Right? And let's get our brush. Where did I put my brush? There it is. And what did we talk about that it was going to be? It was going to be a mirror. So what I have here is a mirror. The other thing is some of that mirror will be a little further out, right? And might be a little bit darker. So I'm going to get into my yellow. There we go. That's a nice little mark.
Mm.
If you need to get some more water on it, you can. I can always come back in with a little of that if I want. And then we can get right into perhaps some darker little magenta and cad red, because water will tend to show a color, show a thing just a smidge darker than what's above it. And even more than your reference, what you have up here, that should dictate what you paint. Because so say you put your brush strokes in a slightly different configuration than the clouds in your reference, what you want to be more aware of is what you did. You need more white, get more white. It's water, so, you know, cut yourself a little break. I'm going to get into some yellow here and that going there as well. A little more white, a little more pink. And again, we've got our wonderful pier.
So
it really
is pretty.
We're not going to be like, get a little more purple going over here. Yeah, there we go.
If you were feeling like it, could you wrap that around the canvas edge?
You can. And if I were painting a very deep edge canvas, I might be inclined to. There we go.
Wow.
Little touches, little thoughts, taking us a couple of unexpected places that we didn't know we were going to go. You don't always know where something will take you. All right. Let's see how we're at.
Oh, that looks so good.
So hopefully at this point, the kind of construct of how we do this is like, oh, I see how it's done. That's how it's always done. Always. So that's kind of nice. No matter what fanciful thing you put up here, you put a fanciful thing down here. If you've got a little bit of your cad red in your, you know, magenta up there, and remember, a little darker below.
Yeah.
If it bends this way, it'll bend that way. Just little things.
That's nice.
Just a little bit of thought as you go. Doesn't need to be perfect. It's really about its totality. All right, that was a lot to take in, and I'm breaking it up into a lot of steps, I know.
That's okay.
But I think if you get to there and there and there, then you're anchored for the rest of it, and then it's all groovy. You know how when you're bicycling and you're like going up the hill and you're like, I think I can. And you're up, down, and you get to the top, and you're up, down, this hill is so steep. And then you get over the top, and you're like, and you go down. We're about to hit the top of that metaphorical painting hill where we go down the other side and just sort of enjoy all the little brush strokes all the way down. Whereas like John likes to say, it's just turtles all the way down. Turtles all the way down. All right, look at that. We have such a nice basis for sky. Now I have my 12 Princeton, and let's get my number 12 Silverstone. Now, before any of this in my life, and I have these from years going back, this was my big like go-to canvas little cloudy brush. So let's get back into it. And then I've got my little round blender for detailing. Sound good?
Yeah.
Sounds like, I don't know, like that's fine if that's what you want to do.
I like it.
I'm going to take a little of my Naples yellow and my Cad yellow. And I'm going to come on the toe of this brush, this number 12 Silverstone, and start to speak to some clouding. When the sun's focal point is down here, it will do some interesting stuff. It will make the clouds above it a little darker, and then you'll highlight underneath. So when you're painting that, what you think of in a normal day sky where the light's on top of the clouds is now underneath. The other thing to think, closer to the sunlight, it's more yellow, it's brighter, it's warmer. As you move out, it's going to move into its cooler colors. On the toe of the brush, notice these wiggly strokes. Funness. Definitely going to do some of that here. And since I'm here, and now I've got my anchor, I want to make sure that I am speaking to some of this, what I'm seeing up here in my sky, in a more detailed way down in the water, right? A little more red there. Warm. Pushing it along. You can do this. Sometimes it may feel like you can't, but you can.
It's a very beautiful sky.
Oh yeah, when we're all done, it'll be... I predict this will be one, for those that get it and discover it, this will be one of those lessons on YouTube that changes it for many artists. Where they're like, this was my breakthrough moment. Now, my lightest part of the sky would be the part of the clouds facing downwards, but I can put in little shadows and little variables in there. You just want to kind of move forward as you go. And as I do things up here, I definitely want to speak a little bit about them happening down here. They don't have to be exact, perfect all the time because, well, life is rarely any of those things, is it? Get a little bit of my magenta going here. Let's say that there's some little bits. As we move closer to the sun, those little bits would get perhaps more yellow. Little elements of clouds and things coming out. A little bit of yellow there. Always fun to play. I want to get into my white, smidge of my blue, mostly my white. And I want to make sure I've got this sort of almost glass. See what I'm talking about? happening in the water, so I'm going to brush that back and forth. Just keeping track of that. Doesn't mean I won't. You can even come back in spaces that you painted and help out a little bit.
Little reflections.
Mm-hmm. What do I got to keep track of? My horizon line. That's it. Let's take a little bit of my dots, interestingly enough, and my CAD red. Wiggle, I'm just like on the toe of this. Let's wiggle some shadow. Some deep values, right? Into our sky. This is something to be attentive to. This is something to step back and think about. Step back whenever you're doing skies, and it's going to make John crazy, but step back. Right? Do what Stevie Nicks says. Stand back. She knows what she's talking about. Listen to Stevie. Put her on. Listen to her music. She'll guide you through the painting. She knows what's up. CAD red and Doc's purple. Nobody ever thinks about that. You see how these dark colors begin to help us find our sky.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm making these little regular movements. Right? Little random movements. Because skies are random little bits of kit, aren't they? What do we not have here? Little circular round white things, though. We don't have any of that, do we?
No.
No.
No flat bottom cotton balls.
No flat bottom cotton balls. No siree, Bob. And then as I come down in the sky, watch, I'm going to get a little bit of my phthalo blue, and it makes the most perfect shadowed cloud color. So I'd started out with my CAD red into my docs. I pop over into my phthalo blue. It is the secret to the shadowed cloud color you see in so many skies. If you've ever had trouble getting that weird blue purple that is on bright skies that are backlit sunsets, that's where it lives. Did not know. Step back, take it in. Who painted a beautiful sky today?
Mm-hmm.
You guys did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
This really is pretty.
You've got time. Pace yourself. That's another important thing to remember, guys. You've got time. Right? We all want to rush through our lives, rush through solutions, rush. You don't have to do that here. Here, you can take a second. You can find that moment in the piece. Let's bring a little brush of that down. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of dark light. Okay, now. Let's get here. And then the next step, we're going to be probably pretty done with our sky. I just want to get us to here.
We could be?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to, yeah, it'll go real quick. WandaVision, did you guys see last night? Oh my gosh. My kids and I are like, when it's Friday, we're like, WandaVision, 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 WandaVision. We grab Dad. He's not allowed to do anything. He's not allowed to take a breath. He's not allowed to sit down because it's WandaVision time. We have to go watch it as a family. And I am like, it kills me that it's not longer. It kills me that there's not more. Every single episode, I'm on the edge of going, I cannot wait 7 days. Cannot wait 7 days for more of that. WandaVision.
I can't.
It's like what I'm about right now. Of everything going on right now.
I can't leave you for 2 minutes and you're not like,
WandaVision, WandaVision. Disney Plus has not disappointed me, I have to tell you. I really only got it for the kids, but I'm not disappointed. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not disappointed in HBO Max. No, they don't pay me. I don't know anybody over there. I don't know anybody. I'm just telling you. All of Studio Ghibli's on HBO Max, plus the specials, plus seeing movies early. I'm loving it. That way, when I don't like a movie, I'm not so mad.
You're on Roku.
Ooh. We're on Roku. And hey, if you work at HBO Max or Disney Plus, I could be your artist.
We would do it.
We do it.
Cinnamon comes with me. I switch cameras for her.
Yeah. You don't got to do nothing. We'll take care of you.
We'll just do it for you.
Let's put some things through here, shall we?
I get to go to Disney with you and you go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're a family deal. Now I'm going to wiggle this around. I'm going to make some soft cloud shapes. Look at my big fluffy brush. My big fluffy brush. It's so fluffy. Sorry. It's like, what is on the TV? I've avoided WandaVision, and now it's singing WandaVision at me. These ads are tracking me everywhere. No, I just really like it.
What are you doing with
I'm taking my Cad Red and a little of my Quin Magenta. I've got it loaded kind of on that little fluffy tube. And then wiggle. Wiggling it around, making irregular, soft forms. So there's all kinds of ways to get softness in your clouds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think because we're so familiar with a awesome, famous person, right, that we won't name right here, but we all know who it is, we think of doing clouds in one kind of way of doing it. But there's a lot of ways to get here. There's a lot of ways to be here, my friend. And by coming in and pulling in these little details, which I really, really love. Yeah.
Super good.
Super good. Now, a lot of what works here is the colors. You don't got to mix up big, huge chunks of colors ahead of time. You can do this as you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so don't be afraid of that. You know, get in there, get in the palette and find a little bit of goody color right here and go, oh, you're so good. I'm going to put you right here. That's how excited I am about you.
Whoa.
And I'll come over here and notice I'm just dancing the brush around. Your brush dances. Let your brush be your dance partner. Yeah?
Yeah, why not?
And what you see me sometimes doing is like finding some balances between spaces. I haven't even used zinc, guys. I used a special medium. I haven't anything. I've just danced my brush. Oh, I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm. Yes, you are, brush. Keep dancing. All right. When I'm alone, this stuff still happens, just so you guys know. All that it is that John has video proof what's been going on in his life, his whole life. Now he can go to his friends and go, did you see? all the time, guys. All the time. Look at that. Isn't she just becoming a beautiful sky? I think she's just becoming a beautiful sky.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I hear like da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. It's gone heavy metal on me.
Has it?
Because the brush is making that noise. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Okay. So it has its moments. Cad red, quinacridone magenta, lightly fluffing out into the sky. Look at this wiggle on the brush. This is not a precision instrument. You're the precision instrument. It is precisely what you feel it needs to be that makes it so. Now maybe flip it over a little. Shall we?
Okay.
Shall we play a game? And let's give some of that also to here. It doesn't have to just find your way through. Find your way, man. Gonna get into that brush I keep talking about now.
Yeah.
Let's get into our Princeton round blender.
Okay.
Get into my yellow. It's okay that it's gonna pick up some of my red into it. More yellow than that. You can see that it's just a soft little dancy brush.
Oh, yeah.
It's dancy. And sometimes you need dancy. I'm going to get a little of my yellow and white into this. I like to just fluff it around. Fluff it. Fluff it around. Find it. Just nice, another line. It's another way to get to find your locations of what you're looking for. It is an easy to push and fluff around brush.
Mm-hmm.
You can push this brush around. You know, we know that there's some coming here. Getting our cad red. We're putting these reflections on the water. Let's get into some red and yellow. And light up some of these irregular strokes that we made.
Mm-hmm.
There's the drama, my friends. There's the drama. Oh my gosh. There it is.
Wow.
So beautiful for spacious sky. Remember with the rain. Well, this could be anywhere, though, actually. So I'm just singing my home song. You sing your home song. I got no feels on that. But it should make you feel like a beautiful home sunset, some sort of escape. I'm taking my Naples Yellow Light and kind of pulling some of that in there because it's such a wonderful, wonderful way to find anything. You can always get a little cad yellow into it. Shall we go around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't ever stress about the sky, man. No, man. No, man. I don't stress about it. Because it's here. The sky is in me. Get into the quinacridone, shall we? The sky is in me. And I can paint her many colors. Hey, you know what, John? We're like Wanda when we make the sky. We're like the Scarlet Witch. Yes, we are. Because look at how it's our world. Our world.
So my vision, I'm helpless, just here to watch what's
Vision
going
has
on.
never been helpless, not for 2 seconds of Vision's life. You are a lot like Vision, too. You're like, I'm going to say something rational to you now. It's going to make you real mad. That's probably somewhat true. And I'm like her because I'm like, rolling the credits. No, this is over. Do you see the credits? We're done. That was the best way to attempt to end an argument I've ever seen.
Roll music and credits.
You see
We're
Bobby
done.
Singer's name? This episode is over, Hunter. Take it or go. Okay. I think I'm good here.
Are you?
Yeah. I think I'm ready to dance in some other way, in some other place, because I feel like what we've got is just a really gorgeous, dramatic, whoa, sky. Do you feel wah in your heart? Are you what? Best step by step ever. You guys are going to love when this mini book comes out, aren't you? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're going to love it. He's taking that step-by-step picture. So you can play with this as long as you want. And as you learn, as you practice these skies, if you do 50 of these skies, these different sunsets, pretty soon the sunset in your heart, the imagination sunset, that's also going to start happening for you. So don't feel like, you are stuck, with just one thing. Now let's talk about the road so far. Since we've done a reference earlier, we've used this brush, the 1.5-inch cutter. We've used a number 12 Silverstone. We've used a little bit, probably the least of the Princeton. We've used a lot of the Ultimate Varnish, and we kind of visited the Isabelle Issacril, just because, it was there. We can keep going with it for a second because it's here and it's already wet. Let's take a little bit of our brown and black, my friend. And let's begin to speak to this Pier. And I may turn this over so I have a nice, easier time. That was super rude of it. Don't you think? There we go. So just a basic 2-point perspective of that. And remember, we measured that out, right? So you want to go by those measurements. Want to remember what those are? Guess what? It's on the website. Not just the traceables on the website. Not just step-by-steps, not just references, not just mini books. But in this particular case, on the web page for this video is the picture with those measurements all laid out. You don't have to remember. I don't expect you to recall. I provide those resources for my students. And no, you don't have to be a patron to get them, though it would be cool if you did become a patron, but not to get a resource, the resources you get. Because you need the resources.
So while you're filling that in, can I ask a question?
You can, because this is all I'm doing for a minute is filling this in.
Susie would like to know, what's the difference between acrylic paint and gouache?
Gouache is a water-based medium that, when dry, can even be reactivated with water. It is opaque, but it has a completely different binder. Acrylic paint has a thermopolymer.
Thermopolymer.
thermopolymer, right?
Actually,
so it's basically it's gooey plastic.
It's I actually don't know if it's a thermal polymer now that I say that, but it is a
Thermogenic
polymer
or something. Yeah, yeah. So we never can say this thing right. It's plastic. It's liquidy plastic.
And
when this is dry, it's dry. It doesn't lift up. It doesn't bind. It's really, really here. With watercolor and gouache, which are more closely related, their binders and their principles of painting are much similar. All right. Though gouache is a little different than watercolor in that it's opaque, not transparent. Not quite as forever as, say, egg tempera, but getting in that space. You could do a lot of the techniques that I do, however, in a gouache. You can do a lot. Though I think gouache really lends itself more to, like, you know the 1920 poster painting?
Yes.
Yeah, travel poster paintings, like from the 1920s through the 1950s. I think that's really a good example of where gouache is the king of all media for what it does, because it gives you those smooth, even fields of application. So now I've painted in the basics of my pier. That's not bad. Not bad at all. I'm going to come here and I'm going to come to the end. You know what? I'm not going to do that because let's be honest, I am going to like have a whole little moment where I get off center. I'm going to use my
T-square?
Yeah, when I get there. So it needs to be dry. So I'm going to come over here and we have a bit of a little peninsula, right? Comes over here and we sort of drew that in. So we'll think about that a bit. And we'll start with a dark color to kind of get it in. It'll be easy to put the gray sandy beach here.
You're getting deep in thought.
I'm getting deep in thought. I'm thinking about the placement of this weird triangle, which we remember comes out 4 1/4, and is down, starts here at the 1125 mark, and ends up here 6 inches from the top. So, but I don't want to do that because that's a light, fluffy tree. It's just so my trees don't get too out of scale. So I'm gonna put that a little bit there. It's very distant, very reasonable little landmass that I have to remember is there. Guess what else I get to do?
What else?
I'm going to take a little of my purple and maybe some of my ultramarine blue. And we're going to make some distant purple mountain majesties. Now let's make sure. I want to make sure. I might actually have to flip it over to make sure. This is really weird, but I got to make sure. I want to make sure it's level. That'll make it easy for me.
Got your horizon line in.
Just getting my horizon line in. Make sure it's good because what's the big thing? Horizon lines. Horizon lines. And so this is like this little purple. The distant little mountains, which will mostly be covered by trees over there, could be here. I am not going to worry about the city because it's really not additive to the piece. Remember when you're painting, just because there is a garbage can in front of the cute mailbox doesn't mean you got to paint the garbage can. Because there's photographs now. So the need and requirement that artists maybe used to have to recreate the world in a very to the letter way, because you know they were trying to create a world in which
I have to say that was one of the better tips that I got from a photography class was to go out and like move stuff around. Like
Yeah.
if there are plants in the way or
Move the plants.
like a random pot or a newspaper, just go throw it out of the scene and then take the picture.
I agree.
I was like, duh. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Paint a lighter area of mountain back here. Push the mountains back a little further. Maybe create a lighter area of them. Might do the same over on the other side, just to create a sense of balance.
That's the Isabeau brush?
This is the Isape Acrylic by Raphael.
Ah.
Just in the bucket today. I can tell you guys all the time, the magic is in you, not the brush. But sometimes it's really easy to get confused and think it honestly is the brush, which is not. It's not the brush. There you go. It's a nice little distant mountain that we have. Sort of a foot. Now, coming out a bit, and I find it's easiest to do this way. Right, but coming out a bit, if we have a little mountain there, I think I might have taken that out a little bit far. If I want to hedge that in so it's not so far out, I can pretty easily. We are painting the mirror. Now there's this weird spot where stuff stops being reflected so close to the shoreline, but kind of is represented there. So we're going to come here and make some little purple lines. It's speaking to the mountains, but they're not as focal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little short, little thoughtful, little short choppy marks. A little more purple blue. Kind of always trying to mirror what you see up top, down below.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There we go. Look at that, getting that in.
That turned out wonderful.
It's not bad. So let's let that be a step so you guys can kind of see where you get to here, because everything anchors from here. Everything anchors from there. It's my youngest daughter's very persistent friend calling on the iPad for a FaceTime call. 8-year-old girls, when they discover the joy of calling, they do it a lot. Have you noticed? It's like all the time. And the conversations, I don't really get where they're going. They wander and take unusual deviations. All right, so you see that starting to come in, right? You see that starting to be a thing?
I do.
And we've got our beautiful sky. We've started to get our nice reflection in our water. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I'm going to take this same brush and I'm going to grab maybe a little of my black and brown and perhaps say some of my yellow.
Okay.
All right, so there's black, brown here and a little bit of yellow. Add white and you get kind of a little distant sand color. I'm going to leave a little of the purple there as a dark line because that's actually rather nice. Get some more white. Add those little white highlights. Don't be too intimidated about it. Just look at what you've got. A little bit more brown sometimes. Play with it. And come across here again. Start with maybe even a little bit of our Cad red purple, interestingly enough. Straight line, straight line. You can take it behind your hill, but just keep it straight. Let me get into my yellow. Go deep into my dark purple. Step back. Check your water's edge.
Looking so nice.
A nice little water's edge there. Come in and dance a little anything there. Wiggle a little bit of detailing. Maybe a little purple on the yellow right here, just so that this part of the hill has a little bit more in the reflection. Let's build some trees. So first, we've got that same sand color, right? So we know it's a little bit of our brown. It's okay if our black gets in it and some of our white, and we're going to get some of that beachy sand. Little neutral beachy sand. Make a little rough edge there. On the corner of my brush, right? Give it a little bank. Sometimes the bank, I want it to go a little bit darker, so I might get into my black and brown and get some variance along the guess what's reflecting? Same thing. Same, right? The rules apply across everything on still water days. So if you're reflecting on the top, you want to kind of try to come in, and it doesn't have to be as sharp, but you do want to have those reflections. I'm going to come along with a little bit of black. And let's take a little of our green and our brown, load them together. Now this little tree, not very solid, are they? And so as we go down, I'm kind of doing little commas. The different little textures of each bush of the silhouette, we get to kind of paint those open spaces. And then where they all become kind of their own, I am but one bush, right? Because there's a point where they get very, I'm what one bush. And maybe bring these little marks forward. Speaking to another type of little bush that's there, different little line. Maybe a little more brown coming forward. Let's do some light markings. Light markings. These are a little dashy maybe. So you can see how the different marks and then we can definitely edges. And because I am working with greens, I do want to start with a dark value that I can build up my lighter greens on in detail. So it's a hot, messy segment. For you emotionally, I expect this to be a little harder to cotton to, as they say.
We're going to, here in just a second, I'm going to have you turn around here and we're going to take a quick, are you close to a pause? So I'm going to take a pause here and see if I can reset. We're having a little choppiness on the stream right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been here in the last minute or so.
All right.
But if this is a good place to take a...
This is a great place. This was where I was going to stop the step because we got in those distant mountains. Okay. We started to put in the silhouette of the trees. We got in the silhouette of the thing. So now all we really got to do is come in. We can define some of the work in our water and put in our boards. So it's a great place to stop.
Okay, I have an idea.
And I can heat my coffee.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Yes! Step 10! Invader Zim says step 10. Congratulate. Pat yourself if you're here. Right. If you're still here and you're still painting, pat yourself because you've done the work. You've done the work. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's a big piece. This is a beautiful piece that will go over some part of your house. It's not a little tiny painting. It's a gorgeous big piece.
So you step away for a second.
I'm going to step away and heat my coffee, I think.
Okay, guys, I think that may have fixed it. What we did is, see here. Yep, we had a little trouble here with the YouTube signal, so I just reset it for a second, and I think that will give us what we're actually looking for here. And Cinnamon will be back over in just a second. We're going to take a look at this. Not sure. All right.
I think they're okay if I'm not there. It honestly doesn't. At this point, it bugs no one. They don't mind if I make a cup of coffee. I promise. Okay. So we haven't gotten a picture yet? All right. Siblings. There is but one internet. All right. So here we go, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to create some highlights and things here, creating our wonderful little green over there. We can look for any areas you want to kind of define and zhuzh up here, right? Now that you've got sort of your space, it's a good time to get clean water, my friends. Good time to get clean water. You know, so if I want to come and add a little white and yellow here, and let's come right here. Some of the detailing that maybe we needed.
Oh, yeah.
A great time to get it. You know, you've got your big brush, so it's a wonderful time to speak to some of that delicate little space. Let's go. Let's go.
This looks so good.
We're just having fun. Have some fun. Get some quinacridone on that brush.
So you're adding a few more layers of sky in here?
Yeah, it's just a good time to sit there and find that so that it feels like what's happening in the water has some of the energy of what's going on up top. Another good time to like kind of really create some fun stuff in the trees, right? So these back trees, they stay pretty dark, right? Like at most you could come back with say a little bit of green a couple places, you know, but really let's get a little green and cad yellow and burnt sienna and start to speak to some of the little bush inhabitants that are here. Don't take away your shadows. I'm just wiggling my brush. Yeah, you can do fan brushes. You can do brushes that are made for creating leaves. In my experience, though, anything that is in the natural world, again, it's all the same, right? We talked about that earlier. It is line, texture, hue, value, those things.
Yeah.
That's what defines our spaces. When it defines them, so you know, bringing a few little bits out here where we say, oh, there's some of that, and then you can always get a little bit of your burnt sienna into your green. Still quite dark, but maybe a little bit lighter than what's behind it. It's kind of a green gold. Wiggle that brush around. Say, oh, hi bush, there you are. I didn't know you lived there. And the bush is like, yeah, I've always been here. This is my home. I've always been here. Always been here. You know, you can always come back into your darkest values. And even play back into those. Back with the green. And you'll find that with the layers, it takes very little to start to define spaces. But guess what we've got to do? I imagine that you have kind of an idea.
To get the picture?
No.
Put it on the side.
You got to do it on the side.
Oh, well, yeah. You've got a lot of things going on here.
There's a lot. And that's the thing. Sometimes it will be true, right? We'll just kind of, we are speaking to what we see here. We don't want to not speak to it. A little bit of our burnt sienna and our green. And anyway, right, we do want to speak to it. Now what's nice is the the water is just a touch less focused. And that does a favor for us when we're trying to create this mirrored effect. Which is why I'm using this brush, because it does tend to itself be a little less focused. Not such a sharp brush. We know our mirror doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be very similar for us to feel like it's the same thing. At least in the purposes of how we interpret a little brown, a little green. Sometimes it's quite dark. You can get right into the black and the green. Some of this will be quite dark. So we did that with the black and the green, and we're creating some deep value shadows there. Rinse that out. And you will want to pop just a little of that green and yellow and brown in the water. Maybe a little brighter than that. Just where you can kind of see it, where it was like, oh yeah, which was maybe a little more yellow here. And just a few places so that they kind of reflect each other a bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, but as you can see, it doesn't take a lot to get the reflection. All right, let's call that a step, shall we, sir?
For sure.
Look at that. We got the distant trees reflecting. Do anything. You can do anything. You can do anything. Creatively, it's in you. Absolutely creatively in you. So take a deep breath. Now remember, like clouds, trees are one of those things where your brain has a lot of visual information and it will want to be highly critical of your tree, whereas others will not be as critical of your tree as you are. I would say that the big thing about there is to find areas of light and backlight and try to like make sure you've got great contrast. And what you do up here, you kind of really get down here. Now at this point, I would say, I think we could all say that there is some definite improvement for dryness so that I could absolutely put in my little pillars. So I'm going to take a mark here and a mark here. The reason I'm doing this is so that the pillars are the same. It's easy to do at the end here, right?
It's easier, yeah.
At the end, we know where they go here, but it can be a lot harder knowing where they go here. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on the side. Now you could use, actually, if you just have the smaller T-square, I don't want to overwhelm you, think you've got to go buy something you don't got to buy. You can use a smaller T-square just from the bottom. You just want a line that's reasonably straight. And seems somewhat structurally sound. Not even perfect structurally sound, just somewhat structurally sound. Like believable to your mind, so that your emotional mind can step out on the pier. That's what you want to do. You want to make space for your emotional mind to take a trip on the pier. I'm going to take my black, a little brown, but mostly my black.
Where you at over there? Oh.
Now, these are wood pylons. They don't have to be perfect in shape. You just want a certain structure to them. I'll do 2 strokes down and then I'll come across, kind of thicken them with a little side stroke. These are thicker, so sometimes the thickness of your brush ends up being just perfect for something.
Mm-hmm.
What's great about the wood here, and I'm going to turn this a bit to the side to do it so that I can do long strokes and not really struggle for them, is I'm going to grab a little bit of my brown and even my yellow. Right. It's very loosely mixed on here.
That's a little dry brushing, isn't it?
Just a little bit of dry brushing, right? Now up to the edge of the pier, the brush strokes are a little bit thinner. And then as they come out, like everything else, they kind of widen out. So we can start to speak to that in the fanning. We can begin that conversation. Actually, weirdly, does not need to be perfect at this stage. So see how we've started to have some wood here.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Right, we've started to have some wood. I'm going to put out a little more yellow. Now, listen, I know in the past we would use yellow ochre and black and burnt sienna. And if you have yellow ochre, it's a great place to use it. It is a convenience color. And for this year, I really wanted to help everybody get into their color mixing, which is why we did a split primary palette. So I'll show you how to do this. But if you're like, I don't do that, just switch to yellow ochre. Don't be worried about it. So what I've done is I've just taken some yellow and black and white. And let's say I'm going to see if I can give myself a bit of a guideline that kind of goes a little bit maybe between these two. I could do it with the T-square if I was unsure, but since these are boards, we'll make them kind of rough and uneven. And dry brushing over the top, right? So that's just pulling each board apart. I'm not using a specialty brush. Here on the edge, when I brush out, it'll be a little bit wider at the back of it than at the front. Notice I'm leaving dark between. That is to help define these boards. As I come through the middle, they even out. And you can see I've sort of suggested the wood.
Yeah.
Get a little more brown. Now maybe kind of go horizontally kind of across here. And then create another little row of boards. Go into this row of boards.
That's interesting.
Well,
thank you, Marcy. First of all, let me say that. And so she was asking, are cinnamon strokes considered impasto, or are they just somewhat thick?
No, these wouldn't be thick enough to be impasto, but they're certainly expressive and painterly and show the brush stroke that's happening. I'm not hiding the stroke. And so it would be that. It would have to be a little bit thicker, and this would be a great place to do impasto work. It really would.
Impasto.
Yeah. Now I'm kind of keeping my brush a little bit on its edge so that the boards are a little bit smaller. And they do line up. And so now we have kind of clear areas of rough-hewn boards.
Rough-hewn boards.
We do. We have some clear areas of rough-hewn boards.
Well, you definitely bored me.
I bored y'all. Let's go across here, and I'm going to tap up and down. We don't need it to be...
Zoomed in is much different than zoomed out.
let's make this a very handmade, rustic little pier, right?
If your dock isn't rustic, give it a year.
Give it a year. We're aging it out. This
will.
is not going to get past the association, right? But hey, what does?
We don't live with our associations.
Let's add a little more. Much like the fanning here, because the perspective, we get to fan things out.
That's an even better question. What is impasto?
Impasto is the very thick application of paint where it's really...
I know where she's going. See, this is one of those things. I'm going to plug her in.
Don't plug me in. It's fine. They don't mind. This is impasto.
All right. There.
So see how you can see everything, every brush stroke right here, especially when you paint in palette knife, it's very impasto. These are thick, built up layers that are very visible. It's a really fun way to paint. So, oh, and now you guys know that I didn't lie. It doesn't shrink, does it? I'll put it up other places, but just in case you didn't see. Does it shrink? No, it doesn't shrink. That's why I recommend it. All right. So we're coming here. Let's get some more little lines in. Now, I used my brush, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
To find the barriers between the wood planks. I am not worrying too much about little detail things, but I am letting a little bit of wood space there. That's lovely. Now, I might take a little of my yellow and some of my red. And, let's go maybe even a little bit of my black. Kind of creates that crazy brown that we can get. And I want to kind of imply some of this little sunlight. Not a lot of it, guys. See, I'm just barely. But I do want there to be like a little light on my pier. Right? A little bit of the sunlight that could happen on my pier. If we were painting a field of flowers.
If you were.
If we were, I would be inclined to bring any light that I had into the sky into my field of flowers somewhat.
The flowers like that.
Well, they do, but I think our mind likes that as well. The idea that the light might dance on our object. So that's tempting to me, right? Just to make it a little more, what? Because that's wonderful. Add the value of your sky to an object like this.
So pretty.
It does. It makes it a little prettier and inviting, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It says that little spot, right, might be very warm. Now this is maybe a little more impasto, so I just added a little white and yellow together. And I'm coming across this as a dry brush. which also kind of makes these boards beautiful. But it pulls that light, pulls our light back into our space. And we want that light. On our pier.
We have such a wonderful group of people with us today from all over.
Thank you. So I know I got a little quiet there, but I was just really enjoying adding a bit of what was up here to this space here.
And while
It's
you were
kind of fun for me.
I was noticing in chat, everyone was saying from where they're coming from all over the world. It's just amazing. I'm just taken back from Scotland to England to Germany to Appalachian Mountains, right on to Australia and back. So hello to everybody.
Hello. How are you guys liking your sunsets? How are you guys feeling? Do you feel sunny? I can check the chat. I got it over here, but
yes,
you can tell, yeah.
Oh,
I might do it. You never
think
know.
That this looks amazing.
And it's fun.
And it's possible.
And it's possible. And that's how you break it down, right? And we're going to keep doing this. Here's my commitment to you. I'm going to keep doing these lessons until we crack it and we nail it and you guys all universally get it. Now listen, if you're at the stage where the horizontal stripe sunset, you know, the one where it starts, you know, maybe yellow and then goes kind of an orange and then a blue, or yellow and orange and purple are kind of still, you're having trouble getting that blend, you've got to watch the blending video, right? Once you get the ombre down and one radial, you're ready. You're ready for it. But even if you're not, go for it, because here's the thing, I'll tell you, in art, it's not the result of your painting that really defines success or failure. It's the understanding within you as an artist about a subject. And it's very important for us as creatives to sort of step out of that outcome and be more attentive to, did I understand a little bit more about my subject? Like if all you walked away from, without even touching your brush to canvas, was that you understand a little bit more about how you would paint it, that is a win in artistic terms.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do encourage you to paint it, but just know, like, no matter where you're at, if you're like, oh, I kind of got 2 or 3 things that I didn't understand before, it's a win. So thumb up the video and say, I won. Like, hit it, thumb it up. And if you want to see more sunsets like this, we've got a beautiful beachscape where we're going to do the foam, which you guys are going to love how to do. It's going to be so much fun.
And we're all done here?
Yeah, we did.
You got to sign it.
We got to sign it. And then you know what? You've got to take them on the deep tour.
I will take them on a tour.
And the song.
And we got the song.
Deep tour and a song. And in this one little case, I guess I'll grab some red because that's okay on a sunset like this. But I'm going to go like this. Every mark on your canvas, everything that you do is part of the composition, including your signature. So you will see me think about my signature just a little bit so that it doesn't become a detraction to the overall piece. You don't have to sign where I sign or sign how I sign or even sign at all. None of those things are rules. But it's just nice to realize that, hey, my signature, if I'm going to put one on there, is part of the composition. And maybe I wouldn't want it to be like real big right here. Unless you felt like your name was just that important in the moment, and that is okay as well, because there's no real rules on this issue. There's just a conversation. Oh my gosh. So this Tuesday, we're going to come back and we're going to do a couple in a park in an embrace. It's just an incredible painting about love and connection. One I highly recommend that you make reflect your life and the love in your life. So it's super customizable. And that's going to be Tuesday night at 5. That we might do a pre-show. We didn't have to do one for this one. I'll always let you guys know if we need a pre-show. It'll be up on the Facebook page for that pre-work, but I think that one's a pretty straightforward. And then the beach is the next day. Monday, my mom's on at the night, and she does all kinds of craziness. You never even know. Like, you find out when you get there. That's when you find out. And so that's coming up. Watercolor Wednesday is the house that love built, which is a beautiful piece for your studio if you're decorating your studio. And that's going to be on Facebook. So that is pretty cool. And Acrylic April's coming up. So I need to know you're going to be here for Acrylic April, the 30-day, everyday painting program that changes everything. Because nothing helps you paint more than painting. And daily painting helps you break through all kinds of mental and emotional barriers and just get into the process and work. It's why I go through doing it every year. It's not a small thing to do, but the results in you guys aren't small either. So it's so worth it. All right, John? I'm going to do the be good, and then you do the song and the tour.
I'll bring them over.
Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. I can't wait to see your sunset, and I want to see you really soon at an easel.